Republican vice presidential hopeful and nominee J.D. Vance has set a record. Now, normally, when the vice presidential candidate is announced at the party's convention, you usually see a favorable upswing in polls of the ticket as a whole, and for the party and the presidential candidate of like plus 19-20%, somewhere in that range. Since J.D. Vance has been named the nominee for vice president, there has been a -6 shift in favorability, which means that's a 25-point swing in favorability ratings of the Republican presidential candidate and his running mate. That is a huge switch. That is 25% of the Republican voters, or the voting populace, that have a less favorable view of Donald Trump, and now Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, than they did prior to the Republican National Convention. That it does not help their chances of getting reelected. They are going to have to go into damage control mode, trying to fix this image of J.D. Vance, but I don't think it's going to work. I've been hearing some speculation as far as whether or not they're going to try to replace J.D. Vance as the nominee. That does get kind of messy because the convention was already held, and now they would have to go back and pass something with Republican leadership to make that happen. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's just kind of messy and complicated. They could do it, but also it would make Donald Trump look foolish for just nominating this guy to be his vice president and then turning around and saying, well, nope, you're not going to be my running mate after all. We're going to go with somebody else. J.D. Vance was also kind of a weird pick because normally you pick a vice president that gives you something that you don't have as far as your political background. Maybe it helps you carry a state, a swing state that you thought you wouldn't get, things like that. J.D. Vance is from Ohio, which is pretty safely Republican, so he wasn't going to help the Trump team win Ohio in the Electoral College. And J.D. Vance is farther more conservative than Donald Trump. That group of voters was going to vote for Donald Trump anyway. As well as J.D. Vance doesn't have a lot of political experience. He's a virtual unknown. He's only been in the Senate 2 years, wasn't really a high-ranking political person prior to winning that Senate seat. So it doesn't gain him anything by having J.D. Vance there. So there is some buyer's remorse as far as having J.D. Vance on the ticket. So we'll see what the Republicans do going forward. But right now it is looking like this was a horrible, horrible pick.